When you talk about SUVs, you think about a lot of power, you think about an imposing stance, you think about a lot of space inside. Now what BMW has here is the X3, which has an imposing stance, which has a lot of power, which has a lot of space inside as well. Along with that, what it does is give you a lot of luxury elements and a lot of technology inside as well. This is the BMW X3 M Sport Edition, so it's supposed to perform better too. Does it manage to do that? Well, let's find out. Now this is the M Sport edition of the BMW X3, which is the performance edition. It gets a 6-cylinder 3-liter diesel engine that produces 260 horses and 560 Newton meters of torque. So you get massive amounts of torque surging in, and on overall terms the performance is peppy. The engine is pretty responsive. The engine does sound a little more than it actually revs. There's the engine sound, the overall hum does make you feel that the car is revving more than it actually does, but on overall terms it stays within the 2000 rpm limit. And you also get multiple driving modes over here. You get Eco Pro, you get Comfort. The Eco Pro is of course for more mileage, and Comfort's more like a balance between performance and mileage. And Sport and Sport Plus, these two modes are your performance modes, where in Sport Plus you get your traction control off, so that's for a more adventurous driving per se. And all of this combined makes the BMW X3 a pretty hefty SUV. It's pretty large, so there's a lot of body roll. Also the center of gravity is higher, but what you get is very stable overall ride quality and a pretty fun to drive SUV, so to say. But yes, the heft of the car does feel when you're sitting on the steering wheel. But once you're speeding, even if you're driving at up to 180 kilometers an hour, if you can, that is, you would not really feel the impact of the speed. But yes, of course, you shouldn't drive that fast, and neither did we. So much like the Mini Coopers, the BMW also gets the iDrive format infotainment system. You get this central display which is pretty large and is not touchscreen. Instead, you get to operate it through this controller, which is the iDrive controller, which gets this 6-way toggle with back and forward options. And you get the 5 buttons over here and 2 buttons to the bottom for managing all your operations that you'd like to carry out when you're in the car. You switch to settings, and this is where you get all the settings for your car. This the xDrive30d M Sport Edition of the BMW X3 gets a heads-up display, which you can choose what information is to be showed. It gets cruise control, navigation, and control messages, which are notifications about your car, and your entertainment and telephone. So if you get a call when you're driving, the prompt will come on the heads-up display over there. So that's your heads-up display settings, and you can control your instrument cluster and control displays, date and time, language. It's all standard as you would expect on a car's infotainment console. This is where you get your Bluetooth settings, so you connect from here. You can connect up to 4 phones at one go. So if I would like to add a new device, I'll be prompted to delete one of the paired devices that are there in the car right now. You can pair multiple devices at the same time and keep them connected once you're in the car, and you can switch actively between them when you're playing music or you need your telephone services to be relayed through the car speakers. Now that's your Bluetooth settings, and apart from that you get audio settings, which gives you treble, bass, balance and fader, along with your equalizer, which is pretty comprehensive, and that's actually pretty nice. You get to choose your low frequencies, how deep you want them to be, and your mids and the highs. And along with that, you get Logic 7 surround audio in the car, powered by the Harman Kardon speakers that are there inside, and of course volume settings with speed dependent volume and etc. You get speed controls, so you can choose the car to warn you at whichever speed you're driving. So maybe warning you at 260 kilometers an hour is not really going to help, so we'd keep it to 140. And you also get your climate settings over here, so you can choose to activate climate control at a particular time. And apart from that, you get your standard light settings, so you get 2 presets for ambient lighting, classic or modern. And you can choose your brightness and home lights and every other light settings, even for the exterior. You can choose driving mode settings. Over here you can configure the driving modes as well. So once you go there, you can choose a mode to be limited to a certain speed. You can choose a particular mode of climate control and coasting, and you can see your potential of the driving mode on your display. So over here on sport mode, you can actually choose drivetrain and chassis, and drivetrain chassis separately, which makes it pretty comprehensive. So you get all settings while sitting here. You can also choose your key button settings. You get last seat position automatically, and automatic relock and lock after driving away. So that is what you get with the BMW X3's infotainment setup. You get everything in one position. That's all controlled by the iDrive controller. Apart from that, you get the standard multimedia controls. You can choose your sources here, and since we're playing via Bluetooth, we'll go to the phone, and this is where the music controls will be read. You can see currently playing, you can search for music, and you can of course go to playlists, which are going to give you no entries so far, so we've not rated any of the tracks over here. And once you go to more media, you get podcasts and audiobooks in case you've stored any of them. So that's how the music setup works. It's once again apt. It's as much as you would need, and you also get a quick sound control over here, as you would need if you would want to toggle with the sound when you're driving. Radio, FM or AM channels, and then you get your telephone with access to your phone book, and last number redial, so you can get to quickly redial the number that was that you received or dialed last. You get received calls, and you can also dial numbers from the circular dial panel, which we've also seen in previous Mini Cooper and BMW cars. And along with that, you get a satellite navigation where you have destination input, pretty much the same format as BMW always uses. And the input setup is a little can be a little tedious, but you can actually use the central panel as a touch button. So if you write T, they record as H, so you can use this as a touchpad, which is, I think, a pretty nifty addition. So you don't need to just rely on the circular dial, which is really useful. And you also get your recent destinations for the places you've navigated to, and you get points of interest, and an address book which will read from your phone if you've stored addresses, and of course the 3D map that looks pretty neat. It gives you a 3D view of the road ahead, and all of this makes the satellite navigation system also pretty good looking, so to say. You also get spoken instructions or voice assistance, and you get your routes to your destination, points of interest on the way, which is going to show up. You can choose it to show up or not show up, and you also get an interactive map and multiple map views as well. So north oriented, in direction of travel, which is the adaptive map, and perspective. And of course you get contacts and you get vehicle information, which is going to give you a quick reference, efficient dynamics, which is going to show up about your car, about your fuel consumption history. You can get the graph over here, so depending on how you've been driving, and along with that you also get the last 15 minutes statistics and efficient dynamics information as well. So then you get a quick reference and a picture search and an owner's handbook, which are all pretty much standard. You get an onboard computer, which is going to give you the car's range, so far the average speed and fuel consumption. A trip computer, which essentially is the trip meter that's integrated into the central display, and you get your vehicle status, which gives you a flat tire monitor. You can also reset the monitor. You can choose to check your engine oil level and service requirements as well. So here you can know that everything is, of course, working as per it should. And you also get sport displays, which gives you power and torque as you drive, and that's a pretty neat little addition. You'd like to see the amount of power you're getting, you'd like to see what kind of torque your car is producing, and all of this makes it a pretty interesting, intuitive car to drive. And you also get the xDrive status, which gives you a compass and the degrees of stability that your car offers. With that, we come to a wrap of everything that's there in the infotainment system. It's pretty comprehensive. Well, saying that it's comprehensive is actually rather underwhelming. It gives you everything that you need, along with music, navigation, your telephone and message controls, your car settings and more, all covered into this 12.3-inch display and controlled with the iDrive controller. Now the buttons over here act as shortcut buttons, and they are programmable. They're also touch operated, so if you would see as I'm swiping through, you could see them changing on the display. You can choose to program each button to your favorite settings. For instance, on 1 we've put navigation, and on 2 it's telephone. On 3 we've put multimedia, and on 4 it's radio. So just touching on top of them will show you what it is, and if you press the button you'll be taken to what you've chosen in your preset. For instance, if we were contacts to appear on number 5, and number 5 is still unassigned, so we just have to press and hold number 5, and there you go, the preset is selected. This is a very neat addition, which is pretty useful for those who are navigating on the go, so you can keep your eyes on the road and simply swipe through to see what is where, and select to carry out the operation on the display, which is a very neat addition to this car. Now the iDrive controller is one of the best ways of controlling an infotainment system. Why? Because of the versatility that it adds to the system. Instead of having to use a touch screen, since the display is recessed into a housing, which also adds to sunlight visibility, so you don't get touch controls. Instead what you get is this remote control of sorts, with 7 buttons and a 6-way toggle, and this also acts as a touchpad. Whereas if you go to telephone and you go to phone book and you go to your A to Z search, you can simply write what you want. So that's as good as the iDrive controller is. It's pretty easy to navigate the entire system. You also get voice assist, so you're not just relying on the physical buttons. But even if you are relying on the physical buttons, that's not a problem, because it's very fluid, very efficient and very versatile. Now the leather wrapped steering wheel of the BMW X3 looks sporty, and it does feel quite sporty. It does feel hefty, although it is much lighter than what we would have expected. Now you get a lot of steering mounted controls. To your left is all the controls for cruise control. You get to choose cruise control from here and adjust the speed from this toggle, and then you set it from the set button. To the right you get modes for entertainment. You get to choose what you want, Bluetooth, FM, depending on your preference. These are your volume controls, and of course you can choose to take calls and voice control as well. So all of that is what makes the BMW steering wheel a multifunctional hub. You also get paddle shifters over here, and indicators to your left and your wiper controls to the right. And you also get controls to control the multi-information display, which shows you range and a compass, your mileage and instant mileage, and of course average speed and date. So you also get time and outside temperature along with the total kilometers driven, and of course the balance between charge and power in the Eco Pro mode, making this a pretty neat multifunction hub. Now the BMW X3 is powered by 10 Harman Kardon speakers, and with the sound you also get Logic 7 surround setting, which gives a theatrical envelope of audio all over your car. Now we're gonna play something and show you exactly how loud, how fulfilling the audio is. Not only is the audio theatric, it is also loud and it is very tight. It gives a very good low frequency response along with clear mids, and all of it feels very posh. It feels very rich. If you want to further customize your audio settings, you can simply go to multimedia, switch to sound, and here you get the standard treble and bass controllers along with choosing the balance and the fader of the audio. And you get an equalizer where you can choose your low bands to the high bands as much as you'd want to customize your audio. You can also choose to switch on or off the surround audio setup. This is one of the best in-car audio setup that we've heard till date, which is not just impressive, it actually defines the car that you're in, and it actually makes you feel much more posh, much more classy, and much more well equipped with the infotainment system. As you would expect in a car of the BMW X3 status, you do get dual zone climate control along with defoggers, but you do not get heated or ventilated seats. So that is something that we would have actually liked to see in this car. But apart from that, you get fan controls over here and airflow controls along with air ventilation controls. You can sync the two temperatures or not, depending on what you'd want. And of course, there's the AC on off button. You can also choose to put the AC on autopilot or keep it to your manual controls as you would want. The AC is not as noisy as it is on a few other cars of this stature, which makes it even smoother an experience as you would want in a car like this. The heads-up display in the BMW X3 is actually one of the most impressive elements of the car, especially seeing that the HUD is such a rare element in commercial cars these days. The HUD is going to show you speed along with a few quick settings with navigation, music, FM radio, and when you switch between the modes along with calling. It's actually very intuitive, and it's also very easy to use from the steering mounted controls, and only after you use it that you realize its importance, and you never have to take your eyes off the road. This is not only good to look at, but is also very attractive and useful. Most buyers of the BMW X3 is going to be seated at the back seat, and it's a pretty good place to be in. It's got a lot of space. I'm slightly short of my thigh support, but that's not a big problem because the seats themselves are really comfortable, and as you can see, eons of space even after adjusting the front seat to decent height and recline. I also get a central armrest which has these foldable panels which you can tap open for the cup holders. Beyond that, you get your personalized AC vents and a slight amount of storage space. You get some storage here as well, and a pretty large cup holder to the left. And the overall interior feels really well made. It feels plush, it feels of very high quality, and it always makes you really happy. You also get a panoramic sunroof over here, and you get sun blinds as well, so that you can block the sun out when you're sitting. You can quickly take a nap. And looking at how stable the car rides, you will enjoy taking a nap at the back seat. The interiors of the car are equally plush to go with its exteriors and the ample technology that's been given to the car. Now you get plush leather upholstery with a lot of storage space, a lot of space on the back seat for 3 people to sit comfortably, and the front seats are also where the main comfort lies. For instance, you get memory seats here, and you get extra thigh support like the way you'd get in a Mini Cooper as well. The seats really hug you, and you can choose to adjust the pitch of the seats as well, which makes it much more comfortable to sit. All of this combined makes the BMW X3 not just a sporty package, but also a very luxurious package. The BMW X3 is a thorough tech fest inside. Not only does it get all the essentials, but a lot of additional features like power and torque displays, adaptive and electrochromic mirrors, and a lot more. Now, what does that mean for this car? Not only is the car fully feature loaded, but it is also a very joyous car to drive and ride from the back seat. That's it from the BMW X3 review. Stay tuned for more.